There seems to be an epidemic currently of failed UK politicians getting airtime. And not just failed UK politicians, but embarrassingly failures politicians in the case of Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss. Now, last year, Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss were responsible for completely crashing the UK economy by coming along with a completely bonkers, extreme right-wing economic mini-budget of borrowing tens of billions of pounds to hand over to the rich in tax cuts. And obviously, that was never going to work. The markets got spooked. They did not know how the UK government was going to pay for this. And it all came tumbling down, and interest rates went absolutely sky high. It's the reason why people are still paying high mortgages right now. So why would the British public want to hear from these people? Why would anyone want to hear what these people have got to say? But we had Liz Truss, like a lot of failed UK politicians over in America this week, trying to suck up to Fox News.
We can revive the values that most people in our societies are desperate for. The problem is that so much of the public debate is now dominated by the woke left. What I see is on the streets of London, I see people demonstrating in favour of terrorists.
Mm-hmm. Really, Liz? Because, okay, I remember those two girls that had those Hamas fighters on the back of their jackets or on their backpacks. You know, that was disgusting. But I seem to remember the other 699,000 people were peacefully demonstrating for a ceasefire and to stop women and children being killed. That's what I seem to remember. But anyway, regardless. So this week we had Kwasi Kwarteng on Talk TV. And of course, a failed chancellor with a failed hip-hop rap star in Nadine Dorries.
To make the internet safer for the younger generation. It's effectively a framework to protect internet users from scams, illegal content and anonymous abusers. It will force big tech to stop their terms being breached and puts in measures to defend free speech. But is it true it will impact freedom of expression? No, we put in legal protections in the 19th section.
That's the greatest gift that she gave to the British public while she was in office, Nadine Dorries. So anyway, let's hear what he's got to say.
The tensions, the toxicity in number 10. Well, of course, I've written about that in my book recently.
Yes, you have.
I've
started it. I've given it lots of, bought quite a few for Christmas.
Good.
For various people.
Good.
Well, that explains a lot why he's so rubbish at being Chancellor and doesn't know anything about economics, because that's the sort of reading that he's digesting. Nadine Dorries.
And what I saw in the department was a lot of turf grabbing. Now, you know this, but it happens when you're a Secretary of State. People come and they'll try to take bits of your department off you. What I saw and witnessed was a battle between, and it was talked about a lot by civil servants and officials in the department, Michael Gove's department trying to constantly take some of the health. Now, he phrased it yesterday as, there was too much going into the health department. That's kind of like his laying down the groundwork for what's going to come up. But there was just not enough people focusing on what we were trying to do. Too many people focusing, I want to be the one in front of the cameras. I want to be in the footnotes of history. Huge amount of that.
And actually the turf wars, Whitehall is full of that. Oh, that's in my department. That's in your department. That's in they cherry pick all the nice bits. Yeah. And there are certain Secretaries of State, you mentioned one, I think, who are notorious for that. They're always trying to grab other bits of other people's pie, as it were. And that's an element, but that's, I think, an element of politics.
No, it's the element of the Tory party, which is exactly why you lot need to go. Because all you're doing right now is just power grabs, fighting between yourself, looking for the limelight, not actually governing. And then even when a worldwide pandemic comes along, where you think at least you might be able to just stop this stupid power grabbing and pandering and actually save lives, protect the NHS, you're still doing it. And this is just the perfect example of why you lot need to go. You've had 13 years, you're stale, you're stagnant, you need to go. All you're doing is fighting with each other. You're not governing the country. And he says here, oh, that's just politics. No, it's not just politics. There were plenty of other countries around the world, New Zealand, or even here in the UK, the Scottish government. When a pandemic came along, they thought, right, how can we save lives? How can we protect the National Health Service? They weren't fighting each other. They weren't having power grabs. They weren't trying to get the limelight. They were getting the job done because this shit was serious. And this is just, we have an epidemic, another epidemic of Tory ministers basically just saying how rubbish they are, just openly admitting in public how terrible they are. Yeah, immigration is at record highs. Yeah, we've been in charge. The NHS is in tatters. Yeah, we've been in charge. They keep coming out with how the country is ruined and how many problems the country have. You've been in charge. You've been in charge.
A high pressure environment, you've got lots of egos, and people want to claim the limelight, and it's really, really a bad idea. But that's human nature in many ways.
It is. But when you're facing a pandemic, and actually when you're democratically accountable, I think that's when that has to be.
Agree. It has to be held in check.
Exactly, and it wasn't, because you lot are a bunch of crooks. So get the fuck out of number 10.
I think when I became Chancellor, obviously, the PM Liz wanted to get things done very, very quickly. There was a real pressure to get things moving. We could see what the problem was, and it's still there. We don't have enough growth in the economy. And you don't have to be a genius to work out if your public spending is going up at 5% and your economy is roughly growing at 0% or 1%. You've got a big problem there. You've got to either borrow money
coming
or put
down
up
the
tech.
tracks at you.
Yeah, and it's still there. So, but that was very high pressure. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoy the responsibility. I enjoyed, being at the centre of things. But of course, it's high pressure, and in the end, the markets and the political situation was such that she sacked me, and I was amazed. I just thought, well, you've just killed yourself.
So
There's no way you're going to survive
one of the
this.
turning points, one of the key moments, was on that Monday morning when the Asian markets and the Sunday night completely offloaded sterling. Why did that happen?
So there was lots of things going on. It was partly in response to the mini budget, but there was also the fact that the interest rates in the US had gone up. So it wasn't just sterling. Obviously, we look at what's going on in the pound. The yen hit a 50-year low, and the euro hit an all-time low, and the dollar happened to be very strong. Actually, as it transpired over a couple of weeks, sterling recovered a bit, but it was what was happening in the gilt market. That's what undid us. And the Bank of England said, look, we're going to basically cover this until the 14th of October. But on Monday morning, we're not going to basically give any more support to the gilt market, and that's what caused.
That's your job.
That's his job.
This is what I don't get. So he's trying to blame the catastrophe of his mini budget on external forces. The dollar was doing this, the euro was doing this, the gilt market was doing this. This is your job as Chancellor of the Exchequer for the United Kingdom. It's your job to know if you're going to come out with a bonkers, extreme, right-wing economic mini budget, you need to know that the environment is safe enough to come out. Well, it's going to be bonkers, whatever you do. But it's your job to know what the external markets are doing. It's your job.
Because basically the Prime Minister thought on Monday morning when the markets open that we're not going to be able to borrow any money. There'll be a rush on gilts, there'll be a sell-off of gilts, and it'll be a disaster. So I have to do something. This is her thinking. I have to do something before that happens. And that's essentially why I was summoned back and sacked. But I could see that as soon as that happened, she was dead. There was no way she was going to survive. I said maybe 3 weeks. In the end, it was 6 days. But I knew that essentially it was just like watching somebody commit political suicide.
You both committed political suicide, you and Liz Truss, because you came out with an absolutely bonkers, extreme right-wing economic mini-budget that was never going to work. We've had 40 years of trickle-down economics. It doesn't work. And you wanted to booster it to the extreme by borrowing tens of billions of pounds worth of money to hand over to the rich for tax cuts. Okay, some of that might have trickled down. There might have been a few more jobs created. But the majority of that, when you give rich people money, they will invest it. It will go into the stock markets, okay, hedge funds. It won't go back into the economy. The way to boost the economy is to put money in the poorest of society. Raise wages. Get more money in people's pockets. Because what do poor people do? What do I do when I've got more money in my pockets? I go to the pub. I go to the restaurant. I go and do things. We buy stuff. It goes back into the economy. This was never going to work. That's why you committed political suicide. The way to solve the economy, the way to boost the economy is get more money in poor people's pockets, raise wages, get people spending. And people go, oh yeah, but that's going to increase inflation. If you put more money into the market, it's going to increase inflation. Only if production stays stagnant. Okay, if you invest in public services, if you invest in productivity, if productivity goes up, more people have more money to spend, then inflation doesn't happen because there's more to buy. Productivity goes up. You only get inflation when productivity stays stagnant, which is exactly what these guys would do, because all they're doing is giving money to the rich that are just shoving it into stock markets. I think that's enough for Kwasi Kwarteng. I just don't understand why anyone's giving this guy airtime. He's an embarrassment. He should have found the smallest rock to go and crawl under after. Same as Liz Truss. And they still have the nerve. It's like you see Liz Truss now still turn up for these events where you have to have all the past prime ministers. And to boot, she's still getting a prime minister's wage, isn't she? So she crashed the economy. She's costing the British, anyone with mortgages and interest rates, costing them thousands and thousands of pounds, cost the country billions of pounds, and we're paying her for it. We're giving her an ex-prime minister wage, and she gets to turn up at the fancy events. It's an absolute disgrace. If you enjoyed the video, click a like. You can subscribe up top if you're not subscribed. There'll be another video there. You can check that out. And of course, please give me your comments. What do you think? Why are these people getting airtime? It baffles me. Fucking Kwarteng. Absolute knob.